again.
Again.
Hope everybody's October is going semi-decently. Looks like this has been the month of getting people to co-host with me. Back again is
Marlin,
aka Guy, and today we're going to be looking at a sort of cult classic sci-fi horror film from the late 90s, Event Horizon.
After 7 years in deep space,
the ship has been beyond the boundaries of our universe. Who knows where it's been and what it's brought back with it.
A film that did not do well when it first came out. Critics were not that fond of it, and financially it suffered a pretty big loss. Budget, $60 million. Gross, $26 million.
I didn't make any money for you! I lost money for you! I lost money for you!
But it's gained a pretty big following on home video over the years, and these days a lot of people see it as something of a misunderstood in its time horror classic.
Excellent!
Me, I'm not sure I see it as a great horror film, but I definitely don't think it's as bad as the initial reviews and opinions made it out to be. What did you think of it?
it's interesting. It's got a pretty complex storyline, and I think it's a pretty good mixture of horror and sci-fi.
Place is a deep freeze.
How to describe Event Horizon? Well, a common thing that people have referred to it as over the years is Alien meets Hellraiser. And yeah, I think that's a pretty fair summarization. The design is pretty close to Alien, to the point that you could argue a little bit of a ripoff, but I think it stands enough on its own in terms of style.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's a ripoff of Alien at all, because you don't really ever see the evil thing.
And as for the hell part, yeah, I'd say there's a little bit of a feeling of Hellraiser in there, but it mostly goes along the lines of a haunted environment, as opposed to the Prince of Darkness coming forward.
Yeah, it's an environment that is hostile to everything that Earthlings and civilized people would know about, and it's just, it is horrible.
The director of Event Horizon is Paul W.S. Anderson, who many people might know as the director of the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, 2004's Alien vs. Predator, and every Resident Evil movie. It's unclear which one of those titles makes people take him less seriously as a filmmaker, but I digress. Event Horizon was the very first film he made after Mortal Kombat, saying after doing the PG-13 Mortal Kombat, he wanted to do a hard R horror film, and a script was given to his attention by Philip Eisner, which was pitched as a haunted house story in space. Anderson really liked it, and they went from there. Anderson drew inspiration from many haunted house movies, including The Haunting from 1963 and The Shining from 1980 by Stanley Kubrick. I can see a few moments that feel like they're paying tribute to those movies. Specifically, the scene where the door is being banged and pushed against, which is a scene that happens in The Haunting, and the scene where the blood kind of floods through the ship. The plot for Event Horizon concerns a ship called the Event Horizon that went missing while on a top secret mission and resurfaces 7 years later in the year 2047. Must have missed that.
Yes.
Look forward to that. worse than the Challenger.
Yeah, I would say.
Their stress signal is picked up at Earth, and a scientist named Dr. Weir, played by Sam Neill, fresh off of Jurassic Park, who is the designer of the Event Horizon, is put on board a rescue ship called the Lewis and Clark, helmed by Captain Miller, played by pre-Matrix Laurence Fishburne, and with a crew full of some familiar faces and some actors who don't get as much work anymore. They make their way after going into deep sleep, and 56 days later, they arrive around the planet Neptune, and Weir reveals that all info that was said about the Event Horizon, that it apparently blew up, was just a cover story.
The Event Horizon is the culmination of a secret government project to create a spacecraft capable of faster-than-light flight.
It turns out Dr. Weir invented a device that could open a gateway, create a black hole to help the ship bend time, and it's very well explained in a scene using a centerfold.
Space-time, and you want to get from point A here to point B there. It folds space. And if the spacecraft passes through the gateway, space returns to normal.
After it activated the gateway, it just disappeared. Now they're there, they try to figure out what happened. When they find the ship, one, it's a big-ass ship.
It's bigger.
And when you look at it from a certain angle, it kind of looks like a sideways cross. Symbolism.
I don't know. Well, I'll give you that.
The ship is abandoned, there's only bloody remains, and the more they stay on the ship, the more they start to see things. Things related to past traumas and their fears, and it appears that the gateway is working and functioning pretty fine without anybody maintaining it. It's eventually discovered that somehow, after going through the gateway 7 years ago, the ship itself has become alive.
As if the ship brought back something with it, a life force of some kind.
What are you telling me? That this ship is alive?
Do you want an answer? It's the only one I've got.
I guess you could say it has a life of its own, it has a purpose of its own. It doesn't like these people being on it, and it can manipulate them through their minds and do horrible things, and that it can get them to do and to see, and strife kind of breaks out throughout the crew.
And with limited air, they decide it's time to leave, but Dr. Weir suddenly decides they can't leave, and it seems like the ship has taken him completely.
Yeah, he's all of a sudden he's talking like, it's my ship, I built it. The darkness in his character now reveals itself.
He sabotages the Lewis and Clark, blowing it off completely, kills various members of the crew, and the few survivors work hard to separate Event Horizon from the core where the gateway is.
Everybody got that?
The thing with Event Horizon that I notice is it is very well done in terms of atmosphere and being creepy.
Yes.
The design and the way they play out certain scenes, just like the corridors, seeing things appearing, disappearing. There are some genuinely unsettling moments and really scary imagery.
Yes, the film really projects people's fears. It works in very subtle ways to make them believe things that are deep in their mind, their deepest fears, and the things that are most important to them.
It knows my fears. It knows my secrets. Gets inside your head. It shows you.
The thing where I feel Event Horizon falls a little flat is, and this can be explained through the production history, the original cut of Event Horizon was 130 minutes, and unlike the normal production cycle for a movie, where you get maybe 10 weeks to edit, Paul W.S. Anderson only had about 6 weeks, and the test screening for this film went terribly because due to the rush editing, certain effects scenes were not finished. There was also a lot more blood and gore in the original cut, and next to the test audience criticizing the way it was edited and the pacing, allegedly some people actually fainted at the original gore scenes in the film.
But pussy!
So the studio demanded the film be cut down and also to cut out a lot of the gore.
It's the damn money, men. You never know who's a windbag and who's got the goods.
This is where I think it falls a little short. The film is creepy, good atmosphere, but I can't really say I was invested in a lot of the characters in the film.
Well, Sam Neill caught your attention right away. And so his character and how he developed, and that was like core to the progress of the movie. Laurence Fishburne.
He had a good scene where he talks about his biggest regret that still haunts him to this day.
He was screaming for me to save him. I closed the lifeboat hatch and I left him behind. I swore I'd never lose another man.
Sam Neill, Laurence Fishburne, they had some decent character moments, but the rest of the crew pretty much felt, I wouldn't say one-dimensional, but I can't say I really cared about any of the other characters, where they lived or died. The only character who I felt had a little bit of development, but it didn't feel like it went anywhere, was Kathleen Quinlan as Peters, the doctor who had to go on the mission and not spend time with her son.
Right. The ship worked to those kinds of things to its benefit when they dealt and created chaos in her mind.
Joey Richardson, who some might recognize from 101 Dalmatians as Lieutenant Stark.
I think that there's a connection between the readings and the hallucinations, like they're all part of a defensive reaction, some sort of immune system.
I can't really think of anything that was really memorable about her.
I thought she did a pretty good job, but I felt that there must have been some of her performance that was edited.
There's a whole part of the film near the end where she kind of disappears for a while.
Yeah, she's just not, and then they find her laying on the deck someplace.
Richard T. Jones as Cooper, the, I guess, comic relief member of the team.
The funky spaceman over here is Mr. Cooper.
Listen up, Doc. I'm your best friend, okay? I'm the lifesaver and the heartbreaker.
I didn't really find him that funny. He was a little annoying.
An optical effect? That's fucking cool. What the fuck, Cooper?
Sean Pertwee as Smitty, the pilot of the group.
No, I haven't seen anything and I don't need to see anything, sir, but I can tell you. This ship is fucked.
He didn't have much to him other than that he was a grumpy asshole.
Yeah, he was ready to ditch this, ditch that, and he was very open about the whole thing.
She's got an air and power! It's our only chance! There's no way I'm getting on that bastard! We don't even know what happened on that ship!
Jack Noseworthy, interesting name, as the youngest member of the team, Justin.
There must have been a coolant leak. Man, this shit is everywhere.
I wouldn't say he's completely unmemorable. I mean, the thing that stands out the most is he probably gets the worst deal out of everybody in the group who didn't die.
Yes. Nothing like not having your eyes.
He's the first one to find the gateway and, tied to a rope, goes through it into the black hole, giving the movie its title moment, Event Horizon.
Yes, definitely. He crossed the barrier, as it will, and they portrayed it pretty much like they portrayed the going from one dimension through space into another dimension, like they did on Stargate. But it was a little more liquid in scope.
How is he?
Vital signs seem stable. He's unresponsive to stimuli.
The way he comes back is genuinely chilling. He's kind of in a catatonic state, and when he finally starts talking,
It shows you things, horrible things, the dark inside me. I won't go back there.
he tries to kill himself by putting himself in the airlock and opening it, but just as he presses open, he suddenly snaps out of it, and yeah, too late to save you, bub.
Too late.
Yeah, I think he preferred death at this point. And the effect of his eyes squishing out his blood, his veins popping out, that is genuinely sickening and just unsettling to watch.
Those were gory effects, yes.
Seizure lights are a nice touch. And the last character is DJ, just DJ. We never find out his full name. Another doctor played by Jason Isaacs.
Mr. Potter. Lucius Malfoy.
Stupid boy.
He gets a few more extra scenes than the other characters. Nothing that really gives him much of a character. It's mostly just so Laurence Fishburne has someone to talk to. And he does translate the distress signal, which appears to be in Latin. And at first he translated it as "save me."
I think I made a mistake in the translation. That says X. It varies. Save yourself from hell.
And that's the other kind of twist, next to the ship becoming alive. Apparently, when it went through the gateway, it went to hell.
Yeah, we're not sure where it went to, but if for no other reason. And so the thing of it is that if you send something out through the gateway, something can come back through the gateway. It makes you want to think, is it really so smart to be sending out all these probes and these signals into space like we do?
And with Miller, Stark, Cooper, and the now kind of useless Justin being the only ones left alive, they work to try and separate the traveling part of the ship from the part with the gateway. Miller ends up having a face-off between him and Weir,
who has now come from being the inventor of the Event Horizon to being not so much a leader of, but at least a working minion on behalf of the evil.
He's like the face for the ship now.
Did you really think you could destroy this ship? She's defied space and time.
He does a good job at being an evil guy.
Before, he was a little shady. Now,
he's been taken over. He is a vessel for the evil.
The gateway is open. You are all coming with me.
Miller sacrifices himself to divide the ship. He and Weir get sucked with the corp into a black hole. Cooper, Stark, and Justin go into stasis and wait to be rescued. And it ends on kind of a cliched note where we see the rescue team come in, take them out, and when one of them lifts up their visor,
You're fine. They're with us.
and then it turns out just another Carrie-style jump scare.
Which means the evil has come with them.
We're safe. Get here now. We're safe.
I don't think so.
And then we play out to what I honestly think is the worst song you could end such a chilling fantasy horror film on. Definitely from the director of multiple video game movies.
Yes, okay.
I'll see you in hell.
Event Horizon has never seen a director's cut with all the original gore scenes. Some of these sequences include a much bloodier version of Jason Isaacs' death scene where he's crucified and hung by meat hooks, and the scene where Dr. Weir makes Miller see visions of his crew getting tortured in hell. Originally, those scenes were a lot longer and really laid into the carnage. Anderson was asked if there'd ever be a director's cut, and he said never, because the footage has either been lost or it's degraded so much over time it's unusable. A videotape was allegedly discovered in 2012 with the original cut intact, but there's still been no word on whether or not it will be made into a director's cut. So, who knows? Maybe it's really bad as the test audiences say, but could be interesting. I feel like if Event Horizon had a few more scenes to establish the characters as well as the story, I feel it could have been a little stronger, but by no means do I think Event Horizon is a really bad film. It is a good, chilling horror movie, and it's one of those perfect films to watch it maybe late at night, maybe with some friends, and just enjoy the spectacle of it all.
Yes, it is a spectacle. It is a big-looking movie. It's very good that way. I myself am not at all unhappy that all the gore has been taken out. I mean, not all the gore, because they gave us some taste of it here and there to really get an idea of what these people have been seeing and, you know, what's in store from the evil. It's manifesting itself in the ship now. But I agree with you that more character development wouldn't have hurt. I enjoyed it more than I thought I might. The thing I like, it is a big movie. In the sci-fi part they do of it, they do a pretty good job of developing that, except they talk about folding space. And then you go through this point where you bring space together. But they never tell you how they actually fold the space. They just talk to you about passing through.
I guess that's the extent of the screenwriter's knowledge of how science works.
And I guess it was the same screenwriters when they folded space in Dune. So, but other than that, it's a big-looking movie. The sci-fi part is good.
The horror part's not bad either.
Not bad at all. It's very chilling in a lot of ways.
The screenwriter, Philip Eisner, this was his first official movie credit, and he only has 2 other credits afterwards. Firestarter 2 Rekindled, and the 2008 movie The Mutant Chronicles.
Firestarter 2 Rekindled?
Yeah. Doesn't seem like he had much of a career.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the script for that is better and somebody else put a title on it, but that's just...
And as of right now, according to what I've read, he's no longer actively writing scripts, but he's now a teacher who teaches screenwriting at UCLA.
Well, there you go.
I mean, hey, if you got made into a movie, I think you know a thing or two.
You got a thing or two going for you, yeah.
The first key to writing is to write, not to think.
The ending does feel a bit abrupt, and apparently there were a few alternate endings. One did not have the jump scare at the end. There was another where, instead of Sam Neill all cut up and naked, it was just the burning guy that Laurence Fishburne fought.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, the test audience hated it, and I guess that's one change that I kind of like having the face-off between the two of them, and really seeing Neill go full psycho.
Take me. You take me, you leave them alone.
There is no escape.
Apparently, because he's fully naked and his body's covered in scars, it took 7 to 8 hours to put Sam Neill into that full body makeup.
Wouldn't that be a long day? Because that's just, you have to do the work after you've spent 8 hours in the makeup.
I hope that full body suit has a zipper.
I got to drain the anaconda.
The special effects are a little hit or miss. Sometimes the CGI looks pretty bad, but sometimes it looks good, like when they're in the weightless environments. We see the window broken and the air being sucked out of the ship. And the opening shot where we see the camera pull back from Sam Neill upside down and it spins away showing he's on a space station. Apparently that shot took up 1/3 of the effects budget.
That shot.
Gotta get the artsiness in there somehow.
It was a good shot, but 1/3 of your budget? Wow.
After the bad reception, or around the time of the bad reception, Paul W.S. Anderson was getting ready to make his next movie, Soldier, starring Kurt Russell. He screened Event Horizon for Russell, who told him, "Forget what you're doing now. Many years from now, this is the movie of yours people will be talking about." And, looks like old Kurt was right.
I've seen Soldier. Kurt was right.
Now, before we wrap this up, there's one or two other things I want to quickly cover. The first time I ever really heard of Event Horizon was when I saw the Nostalgia Critics 2015 review of it. And I try not to mention other reviewers that often on this show, but I think this is worth pointing out. In his review, when we get to the part of the film where Sam Neill becomes the bad guy, Doug comments, "Sam Neill, quite bizarrely out of nowhere, suddenly decides he's the bad guy." And I remember when I showed this to you the first time a few years ago, you pretty much had the same reaction.
It's like, what the hell? The thing is, it doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes of the movie. It takes that long from the creator to go through a cycle where you're not going home.
I admit that moment is kind of abrupt, but here's the thing. I don't think it was completely out of nowhere. There were many moments in the film that made me look at Sam Neill's character with a bit of suspicion before he suddenly became the full-on villain. The film opens with him having a dream about the Event Horizon. He has another nightmare on the way there before they even arrive. When they're on the ship and the crew starts saying that the gateway is open, he keeps saying in a weird, denying that anything is wrong way that that's impossible. He keeps denying it when really there shouldn't be any reason. And then there's that scene where the door is being banged against and he says, "Open the door." So throughout the film, we get many sequences where it seems like the Event Horizon is calling to him. So his turn didn't really seem that out of place, in my opinion.
Perhaps some of the things that were cut would have given us a couple more steps into the process. You don't know.
And an interesting idea I have is, you talked about how the ship clearly doesn't like the rest of the crew.
It's almost like these people are, this is an infection. I mean, I got to get rid of it.
But it keeps trying to pull Neill in, and he kind of becomes an extension of the evil. Maybe I'm just stretching here, but he's the creator of the ship, so maybe the ship feels an attachment to him. Almost like, "Come join us, Father."
Yeah, something like that.
On the other hand, it could just be an amazing coincidence.
My favorite scene in the film that I think works the best with him as the villain and just the creepy setting is when he talks with Laurence Fishburne in the chair with his eyes cut out.
You won't need eyes to see. What are you talking about? I created the Event Horizon to reach the stars. But she's gone much, much farther than that.
Just the way it's lit, the music, the way he delivers his lines, it's just utterly horrifying.
Yes, just like it can't be stopped.
When she crossed over, she was just a ship. But when she came back, she was alive.
There are a few silly moments throughout the film, like Cooper yelling, "Here I come, motherfuckers!" The weird chair that Laurence Fishburne sits in.
Well, the captain's chair hangs from the ceiling. It's funny, and it swings around too.
good, enjoyable late-night horror flick. Definitely worth checking out in October if you want to binge some horror movies. Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. Not my
Not a huge thumb up, but
yeah,
at least one.
It's not my genre.
Cannibal Orgy. See you next week, where I'll be looking at the 6th entry in the Halloween franchise. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Have a good Halloween.
A team of astronauts entering a distress call far away in space, and what they find turns out to be a living hell where their greatest fears are brought to life. That's kind of the plot for Galaxy of Terror, but I'm not going to make any allegations.